What's up guys, Ben here and welcome to Motivation to Invest. Palantir stock has just took a massive dive after Analyst downgraded the stock for being overvalued. Now a few months ago I did a video on Palantir, I discussed the stock, I went over the whole analysis of the stock and my conclusion was simply this. What I don't like is this company's lack of transparency, the fact that they are losing over $500 million every single year and they only have a few customers that make up their entire revenue. Oh, and not to mention, the valuation is also pretty high. So personally for me, I will be keeping an eye on this company, but it's not for me right now. Perhaps in the future, if the valuation drops, I may get in there. So as that smart guy said right there was a lot of hype behind the stock was overvalued, and now it looks like Wall Street has caught up to the facts. So in this video, I'm going to dive into the analyst downgrade, remind ourselves exactly what Palantir does, and see is the stock actually a good buy now, since it's now being downgraded and the stock is starting to take a dive. But before we dive into that, if you're new around here, why not consider joining the investing family by hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on if you want more investing tips and exclusive stock market picks, which I'm personally investing into. And if you want to take things a step further, feel free to hit that first link in the description below for the VIP membership page on Patreon. So in the VIP membership group, you guys will get access to my buy and sell signals. So when I make my moves, you can make your moves, in addition to my entire six-figure portfolio. The stocks and the story of how I built that portfolio from just $20,000 to over $200,000. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out. There'll be more on that later. But with that being said, let's dive in. So let's remind ourselves quickly what Palantir does. So Palantir is basically a big data company. The goal of this company basically is to take companies which produce vast amounts of data and collect all these data points together, synthesize them, and then produce outputs which the business can use to make real-time decisions. Now, if we dive into Palantir's own words, they power real-time decisions. So institutions have the data they need to make the best decisions for safety, stability, and prosperity. But too often, their data is fragmented and locked in silos. The people on the front lines of our most important problems don't have the information they need when they need it most. At Palantir, we build software that lets organizations integrate their data, their decisions, and their operations into one platform. Our software empowers entire organizations to answer complex questions quickly by bringing the right data to the people who need it. And according to StockCard, which is actually a sponsor of this video, very easy to use platform for analyzing stocks, they actually collate together the markets which stocks currently reside in. So we can see Palantir is in the technology market, of course, software infrastructure market, and the big data and analytics software market. Now, to me, that's the main one Palantir is in. So the big data and analytics software core market is expected to grow by 11.9% per year between 2019 and 2024. So it's clear that big data is a massive market and there's definitely a need for Palantir's software. So why were the analysts so bearish on this stock right now? So firstly, they alluded to something which I personally alluded to a few months back, that just 20 customers account for roughly 60% of the revenue. So Palantir has a lot of big customers, which means their revenue streams are very concentrated. Thus, if they lose one client, that is a major issue and would cause their revenues to plummet massively. The company is also highly dependent on government contracts that may be harder to come by in the future. Now, personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think government contracts are great because they tend to pay a lot and they tend to be over a long period of time, which is great for investors who are investing for the long term. However, the analysts have downgraded the stock. We downgrade Palantir to underperform as we see valuation disconnected from the fundamentals. Sounds like somebody else who said that. With the stock now trading over 50% above our previous blue sky scenario. And there's also another major issue for any of you guys interested in investing into Palantir, because a lot of you guys have messaged me, a lot of you guys have commented and said, Ben, can you do another video on Palantir? So there's a lockup period where the insider investors can actually sell a portion of their shares and they can't sell it yet until February. So the lockup agreement on insiders selling Palantir stock expires in mid-February. So in mid-February, we could see a vast amount of selling in Palantir stock, and this could cause the stock to take a dive. Now that might be a great opportunity to get in there, but it also means we have to be cautious coming up to that date, especially if you're already a shareholder of Palantir. About 80% of shares outstanding will be free to trade on the third trading day after fourth quarter results. We expect significant Palantir stock supply to come to the market. And stock prices are governed by supply and demand. So if we get significant supply, that could cause the stock to plummet. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a price target where I think Palantir is fairly valued. So stick around for that. And if you're enjoying this video so far, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. That really helps out with the channel. So let's dive in a little deeper with Palantir to help clarify exactly what this company does and how it operates. So through Palantir's software, they're actually saving companies millions and millions of dollars by allowing them to use their data effectively. So here's an example here. An energy super major deployed our ERP suite in hours. Within 2 weeks, they generated $57 million of cash savings and expect to generate $1 billion on an annualized basis. So it's clear that introducing Palantir's software has saved this company vast amounts of money. And as the great Elon Musk says, you're paid in proportion to the magnitude of the problem that you can solve. And if Palantir is saving these large organizations millions upon millions of dollars, then that could be really beneficial and really is a great selling point for Palantir. And Palantir has also recently hired a sales team, finally, as previously the founder stated he didn't need a sales team because his software was that good it'd sell itself. But as I know personally, because I did study electrical engineering and I was around a lot of very intelligent people, but I know any business does require salespeople because the technical person, the founder, may not necessarily be the best person to sell the product and service. Because to sell the product and service, you have to take the technical data and synthesize that in a way which is clearly understandable to the everyday public. Because at the end of the day, these governments and large institutions which are actually paying for this data from Palantir, they're not technical people. They need it in plain, simple English. And that's why I think Palantir's sales team will definitely help with that. In the words of the great Albert Einstein, everything in life should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. And that's a philosophy I try to go by on this channel. I try to take complex information and simplify it down, but not oversimplify it, but simplify it so it's understandable for you guys. Here's another example. An aerospace customer signed the latest commercial deal we've ever done in the midst of this pandemic. So that shook their entire industry. So they signed a deal for $300 million on a 5-year renewal basis. Here's another example. A top 5 pharmaceutical company is linking data from more than 2,000 clinical trials in Foundry to uncover trends across trials and securely analyze outcomes at a population level. Now, this software is actually being used for this whole global issue to help governments and organizations actually introduce a V-shot program. Here's an example here. Our software is becoming the de facto operating system of US and allied defenses. So they signed a 2-year, $91 million contract with the US Army Research Laboratory. So Palantir was founded by Alex Karp and Peter Thiel. Now, Peter Thiel was one of the original Facebook investors. He was a co-founder of PayPal along with Elon Musk, and he's a very intelligent guy with great connections in the government. So I do think that will help the business for more deals in the future. Here's an example, a UK example, so I have to put that in there. Powering the NHS's allocation and distribution of more than 2.7 billion pieces of PPE from port to patients. I actually know quite a few people that work for the NHS and work in hospitals, and they've said so far the actual allocation of PPE has been an absolute shambles. So maybe now they've partnered with Palantir, things will start to improve. We'll see. So what about the finances for this company? So they grew their revenue year over year 52% from Q3 of 2019 to Q3 of 2020. Now, bear in mind, the revenue is still quite small relatively. So only $191 million in 2019 and only $289 million in 2020. Now, the reason I say that is quite small, because let's take a look at their market cap. Company's market cap is $45 billion. So effectively today, you're paying a price to sales for this company of 180. So you're paying 180 times the company's sales. Now, to me, that is just mind-blowing. Yes, the company does have high growth. Yes, the company can grow very fast because all it needs is one government contract, one big contract, and the revenue will jump 40-50%. So there is high growth, and I do like the company, I do like the industry. You're paying 180 times the current sales at this level, which is still extremely high. Now, the good news is Palantir is increasing their average revenue per customer. So that's increased 38% from $4.2 million. So they make $4.2 million per customer, and they've increased that for $5.8 million per customer, which is fantastic. Now, the company's margins have also improved, so their adjusted operating income in Q3 of 2020 was $73 million, and adjusted operating margin was 25%. Now, that's a lot better than it was this time last year. Now, that is good considering we are in a global pandemic, and governments and large businesses may be hesitant to actually sign large contracts given the uncertainty of the current conditions. So the average contract duration is also increasing. So it was 3.5 years, and that's increased to 3.6 years this year. And the company does have a strong balance sheet with $1.8 billion in cash. Now, back on stock card, if we dive into the analyst consensus, currently we've got 3 analysts say hold, 2 say sell, and 1 say buy. And I believe that is due to the valuation. Now, the company is also unprofitable. So if we dive into the last fiscal year earnings per share, this was negative. The gross profit margin is 48.39%, which is 10% lower than the industry benchmark, but maybe they're comparing that to technology companies. Now, the majority of investors on stock card who are invested into Palantir are doing a buy and hold strategy, which I would recommend for this stock. So what's my price target with Palantir? Because I do love the company. You can tell I like the company. I love the big data. I love that industry. It's growing. I like Palantir's style. I'm not too worried about the large customers because governments and large companies, they're actually great customers because they tend to sign long contracts for a long period of time. The issue is this valuation. Now, this is where I think it's still overpriced, but a little bit more reasonable, is around $17 per share. So my personal price target for this stock, it's still overvalued at these levels, but I still think it's a little bit more reasonable at this level. So around $17 per share, if you're looking for that level, if you're waiting for a pullback with Palantir and it hits around $17, then that could be an opportunity to open a position. So with that being said, I'd love to know your thoughts, so please do comment those below. Do you own Palantir stock? What do you think of Palantir's future prospects? And if you guys want to know exactly when I'm personally buying and selling stocks, then feel free to check out that first link in the description below. That will take you to the Patreon page and the VIP membership group. There I've made a video which details the entire VIP membership process. You get access to my buy and sell signals, so when I make my moves, you can make your moves, in addition to my entire 6-figure portfolio, the stocks, and the story of how I grew that portfolio from just $20,000 to over $200,000. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to check it out. Or if you're just curious, feel free to click that first link, watch the video, and just see if it's for you. Don't worry, it's not some expensive course. It's actually the price of a coffee, and I personally think the amount of value you get is absolutely incredible. But if you guys enjoyed this video and you found some value, then feel free to give it a big thumbs up. That helps out tremendously with the YouTube AI. And if you're new around here and you still haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join the investing family, turn that notification bell on. Only if you want more investing tips and exclusive stock market picks, which I'm personally invested into. With that being said, I hope you guys have a tremendous day, and I'll see you in my next video. Invest safe.